What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm excited for this one. Definitely ready to dive into this world of entrepreneurship and agency and investing and building brands. So help us welcome the founder of Avintiv Media, serial entrepreneur, building brands for 12 years, top entrepreneur in the U.S., Jon Boles. What's up, brother?
How's it going, boys?
Hey, what's up?
Doing great, man. How are you? How's everything?
It's been busy. I'm hitting a little bit, I'll be honest, because the listeners want honesty, right? So I'm hitting a little bit of burnout this week, and it happens like once a year. And when you're aware of that happening, it's like, okay, you need to slow down, figure out what you can delegate and what you can do. But yeah, this year has been moving at light speed. Every company that I have ownership in is blowing up way faster than I intended to. And it's having me go in a bunch of different directions, but I wouldn't want to be any other place.
Well, dude, first of all, congrats. And it looks like you have a good problem on your hands.
Yeah, it's a good and bad problem. The bad part about it is you can't vent to other people about it because they're like, okay, the economy's in the shit, can right now. And you're complaining about too many amazing things are happening. So, but yeah, there's pros and cons with that.
That's why you come on the Sweat It Out podcast to sweat it out.
Exactly. 100%. I'm very raw and authentic. So I say it how it is.
So I have a question for you because you brought up something interesting. A lot of people are worried with what's going on in the economy. They're talking about recession, possibly a Great Depression. There's a lot of fear mongering going on. And I guess, because inflation's high, gas is expensive. But how are you as an entrepreneur pivoting your business? And maybe you can shed some light for our audience who's probably in the same position. How are you preparing your businesses for maybe a downturn if that does happen?
Yeah. So I would even say, I would even like to touch on how am I pivoting my investment strategies and like what I'm putting my time and effort into, and then go into the business aspect. So, I don't get into politics tons or what's going on or going down the wormhole. I don't pay attention to the news. I have a couple people that are at the top of the food chain in certain industries that I reach out to, or like I get advice from and mentorship, things like that. But I've liquidated some of my real estate recently, at the peak of a market, cashed out at a crazy return on my investment just because I see a bit of a crash coming. I see that the stock market's in the shit, crypto, housing market is next. Cars are going to go back to, the way that they were. I'm the type of person, and this is not financial advice. Let me clarify that. A lot of my friends and colleagues make fun of me for how liquid I am with cash. And, you're losing money with, the interest rates and, your money's not making money. I have a gut feeling that the market is going to crash towards the end of this year. I don't know if it's going to be a recession or, whatever terminology you want to do, but I do know that it's going to be a fire sale for companies. It's going to be a fire sale for mergers and acquisitions. It's going to be a fire sale for houses. And I would rather be sitting on a boatload of cash versus I have all these investments that I need to unwind to try to get liquid as possible to go into the market. During COVID, what happened? I invested a ton of money into the stock market. I wish I would have known that the housing market was going to go next, but I made a lot of money during COVID during the stock market because everything was on sale. So I look at it from a positive outlook versus like a negative victim mentality. And I look like everything's going to be going on sale. Clothing stores online go on sale a couple times a year. That's what the housing market is going to do, the car market. So why not gobble up as much as you can when everything goes on sale? So I don't know specifically how bad it's going to be or what that's going to look like. But what I'm doing is I'm liquidating a lot of my assets and a lot of my investments, and I'm investing more into myself. And what I mean by that is I've recently started 2 new companies, one in the private equity space where we're raising capital for other businesses. What's going to happen if the economy goes under? Businesses are going to need capital. They're going to need bridge loans. They're going to need lines of credit. They're going to need debt. They're going to need all these different things that have to do with financial backing, which I now have my hands very deeply in that industry. And I invested in my own credit card processing company. So what's one thing businesses will never be without? Credit cards. What's one thing that everyone will always need? Credit card processing. What's one thing that you want to do when the economy dips or revenue dips? The first thing you can do is either raise your revenue, which is harder to do in a down spiral of the economy. 2 is the same thing as save on expenses. So if you can find another option for credit card processing or banking or something, and you're saving 0.05% or 1% or 2%, that all starts to add up. So I've invested in 2 side businesses that are going to be recession proof no matter what happens in the economy. So let's go over to the agency end of things. To answer your original question, is when the pandemic hit, we didn't know what the hell was going to happen, right? We're a boutique digital marketing agency. Our payroll was $50,000 a month. Like, it was not a huge company, but not a small company by any means. And I'm like, well, great. Okay. Like, what the heck's going to happen? Are our clients going to leave us? And the beautiful thing is, as soon as I put my salary on pause to make sure that my team could eat, my team was taken care of, they have husbands and wives, they have kids. As soon as I, took the humility approach and was like, you know what, I'm going to eat last. Let's do this. It's almost like the world just blessed us, and it brought so much more business in. All of our clients are like, you know what, don't worry about what's going on. We've been wanting to redo our brand and website for 5 years now, but we've been so busy. Now our businesses are shut down, or, we can only do online. So every one of our clients doubled down in their businesses, and our company doubled, like a little over, 200% growth during COVID. And it was a beautiful thing to see. So the unique thing of what I've done with the agency is all of my advisors and mentors told me to niche down years ago. You need to service one type of client. You need to service one type of industry. It's scalable. You can build a process. You can exit for a higher EBITDA, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really glad I trusted my gut instinct and didn't listen to them, because all the agencies that were niched down during COVID, they went bankrupt. They didn't make it through. So the way that I look at it is, our agency has 5 or 6 clients in the metal manufacturing, plastic manufacturing, international manufacturing type of businesses, where, I hate to say it, power plants are not being made. Government facility buildings are not being made. Like, a lot of our manufacturing clients work with like Tesla, Nikola, SpaceX, Motorola, FBI, CIA. Those companies aren't going anywhere. So what I like to do is, when I have a company, I like to invest in industries that I know aren't going to be going anywhere for the foreseeable future. The other thing we're in is health and wellness. We have a lot of clients within the CBD cannabis space, supplementation space, fitness space. We have fitness franchises that we work with, and they now know a hybrid model that they can do if the world shuts down again. They now know that they can go online. So we diversify our portfolio, kind of like an investment strategy of who we decide to work with. So could our company go down a little bit with a downward economy? Yeah, people are spending less money. But at the end of the day, I think we've done a really good job of showing our value and showing our worth to our clients, and letting them know, like, this is the time to double down, because your competitor that's doing $2 billion in revenue, they just laid off half their staff because the economy is going down the drains. You're the speedboat, they're the Titanic. Right now is the time to double your SEO campaign. Right now is the time to double your content marketing campaign, because the other guys that are 1,000 times your size, they're taking their foot off the gas because they have no choice. So that's really how I look at things. It's not from like a victim mindset or a negative mindset. It's okay. The world goes in seasons. Tony Robbins talks about it a lot of the times. Every 20 years, the same season happens. Every year, I'm sure you guys in your personal relationships or significant others or businesses, like, I journal every day, and I go back a year and I'm like, oh shit, the same thing happened like a week before this. So I'm starting to follow patterns of what happens in the world with the economy, with my life, with my energy, with finances. And I'm starting to see patterns. I'm like, oh, if that's a pattern that happens every year, maybe I should flip this 2 months prior. And I started doing that. And like, things have been going a lot better once you're starting to analyze on that deep of a level. So a roundabout way of answering the question.
No, that was a great response. I mean, I loved it. And the way that you're insulating your business, a lot of people have to start thinking like that, because especially now with COVID, it exposed a lot of things. A lot of people who were brick and mortar, who had one vertical and they sold one thing, now they have to literally go online or look at government contracts. And for people making that change, what for you, because you have a lot of businesses, what's the key thing within running your business? How do you run them? Or what's a successful way? Or if somebody who has a business and they want to start putting their money into other places, how do they build a team to help them? Because I think that's the biggest issue most people have.
Yeah, I would say the biggest issue of what's happening post-pandemic right now, and then we'll touch on that because that's an even bigger issue. One of our number one service offerings is the Inventive Way, right? So it's going. So if you're a funded startup or you have experience with an industry, we don't typically work with a first-time business owner anymore. It's just not the right fit for what their budget is, our team, et cetera. But if a business is hitting a plateau, like a lot of companies did during the pandemic, they go through the entire process, which I'll explain later. So I'm not going too off topic, but the biggest thing is business owners are not redoing the way that they engage with consumers. And if you think about what happened during the pandemic, all the different media outlets and all the different wormholes that everyone went in, all 10 different forms of COVID, the world shutting down, all these different political agendas and everything going on, the economy going into the crapper, people don't trust anyone anymore. Like if you look at the research, to close a lead or to close a customer to like D2C or a consumer-based product was 7 to 12 times impressions if you had a good marketing strategy to close them. You triple that now. I know people that are getting 24 to 36 impressions and they're getting lucky if they close the client. So, you know, every ad platform had to change their regulations. Google just updated their algorithm last week. Like GA4 is coming out where you have to use it in 2023. So everything is changing with how marketers work. But the biggest thing is brands need to change how they're talking to consumers. The world got flipped upside down. And even if you're still successful and still doing well, you have to understand that the average person out there is going through a bit of hell. Gas prices are up. They can barely afford their mortgage. Their jobs are laying off people. It's, no one wants to work nowadays. So you have to repivot your brand for the new world that we're living in. And people haven't done that yet. And it's going to be it's not just going online or doing a cheap little Shopify store and, oh, we're online now. It's reevaluating who your business is and what is the voice? What's the personality? What do you believe in? What are the morals and values and how you operate your business? That's who I want to purchase from, outside of the, like the Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth type brands. They don't have to change their voice. They're at a whole different type of high-end net worth level. They're on their own scape. I'm talking about the average type of business owner. But to answer your previous question, staffing and HR is the biggest number one issue in the entire country right now. It was supply chain and logistics for a number of months. And then a lot of people, figure that out. We actually have some supply chain clients and, things are going a lot better than it was. But every client we have, including ourselves, is HR is taking 6 times longer than it originally did. So the good problem, as we mentioned in the beginning, is each of my companies are growing at the speed of light. Avintiv has 6 massive, I won't even say the dollar amount, but life-changing massive clients that we've had to put in a pipeline and pause because we don't have the infrastructure to take them on, because one of their websites has 40,000 pages. So that's an SEO team of 10 just for that one count. And we have 6 of those. So we're even having to pause clients, millions of dollars of business that are saying like, hey, take my money. We trust you. We've had a relationship with you. We love your team. But hiring is complete opposite now. Half the calls, people are actually wanting unlimited paid time off. And I'm thinking in my head, like unlimited, wow. Like we have great benefit packages. We treat our team great. We have a phenomenal culture, but we're not corporate America, doing $600 million in revenue where, unlimited paid time off is viable. But at the end of the day, it's almost like a victim mentality out there now of what are you going to do for me? I need unlimited. I need to be able to work from here. I need to be able to take 10 to 1 off to play with my kids. And don't get me wrong. Like we want to make sure that you're happy, you're healthy, your life is dialed in, but it has to be scalable and it has to be systematized. Like everything we do at our agency has to follow a protocol, an SOP, a system, because if you're all willy nilly and there's 20, 30 team members running around at different times and different lunch hours and different things, no one can get a hold of anybody. It's not scalable. It's not manageable. And then the management team is running around like a chicken with their head cut off, wondering where projects are at. And we're just at the level now with a lot of our clients, hate to say it, we can't mess up.
That's right.
Like when you're working with $1 billion client and they're everywhere, you can't mess up on something like that because someone wanted unlimited paid time off.
So John, let me ask you a question here. Would you say that with the time beings and all this stuff that's going on, would you say it's smarter to then look for outsourced work that you can go from internationally, getting some of these other people who are willing to work and do some of this stuff? Or do you think it's still better to try to hold down and try to work from people here in the States?
That's a great question. I'll answer that and I'll go a little bit further. I don't outsource overseas to India, Asia, China. I've been there. I've done that. Just my personal experience, nothing against them. They're some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. But there's usually a language barrier that is big enough to be able to tell, at least with the work that we do. Like we do very, very high-end brand building. We do very, very high-end SEO campaigns. We do very, very high-end technological content marketing blogs and content creation. there's not much that we can outsource overseas to where they would get it to a 1-to-1 ratio of what we would do. That's the difficult part of having a boutique agency such as ourselves. If we were a run-of-the-mill agency, charge people $1,000 a month for SEO or $500 a month for SEO, yeah, I would have outsourced to India years ago. It's just the quality is a lot different. And usually what happens is you close, like an American speaking guy hops on the call, you think you're working with Bill, and then all of a sudden you find out Bill has a team of 6 people you've never met. And now the language barriers all over the place, grammar errors. So I don't believe in outsourcing overseas. I think it's doable. I think you can do it. But I think that businesses need to pivot their recruiting metrics. Like we rebuilt our entire recruiting platform. We rebuilt our entire hiring process, the questions we ask, we rebuilt all of our benefits packages. Like we've rebuilt everything, the way that we talk about our company, how we talk about our company and the job descriptions, et cetera. But I do think that people need to look into hiring freelancers and contractors inside the United States before they go out external. That's something we've been doing is, people that don't want to work full time, we hire them part-time as a contractor or a freelancer, but we know that they do great work. We've seen their portfolio. We have a friend of a friend or a mutual contact. But yeah, we're hiring for, I want to say 5 to 7 roles right now, full time. Wow. So my HR manager's spinning in circles right now.
And have you seen a difference with hiring, freelancers versus, only in-house? Because you are getting some issues too, where you get, like, for example, you have companies like Apple, look, Tesla, Elon Musk came out the other day saying, hey, if you're not back, if everybody's not back to the office, you lose your job. I know there's these issues going on now. So do you think that relying on these freelancers is going to be a lot better going into the future than just only building an only in-house team?
So when you look at scaling a brand and scalability, I always plan my companies 20 years out and reverse engineer. Obviously, it's not a detailed plan 20 years out. The 3-year plan and 1-year plan are very detailed. When you're scaling your company, there's 2 components. There's the revenue component and the influx of capital and the influx of clients. And then there's the work output that you have to do, which is, so you need to gain clients to grow your business, which is your revenue. Then you need to gain employees or a workforce to be able to provide the service offering that you just closed in all these deals. And if you look at the stats right now, is hiring's taking 3 to 6 times longer. You need to have a fluff board of all freelancers or contractors right here that can pick up in the interim time until you fill that role with a full-time person. So I think we have 6 to 8 freelance contractors that work with us part-time that fill the gaps in between the hiring needs. And they stay with our company. Like we've had freelancers work with us for 5 years now. And I know them on a first name basis. I know their kids. I know, like, it's not just like a run of the mill open work or Upwork or things like that. But when you're looking at scaling a brand to the, past the 7-figure, 8-9-figure level, you need to have a couple different doors of pods. And what we do with our company is we create pods. So there's a graphic designer, a UI UX designer, there's a front end developer, and there's a content writer. That's pod 1. Then pod 2. And then what happens is, when pod 1 gets burnt out, what is their max capacity? So, you can only close so many deals for pod 1, then pod 2 has to go. And what you do is you stack the team with the revenue that's coming in. And that's really what we've been able to do to scale. And that's what's going to get us to the 8-9 figure mark, is doing the pod type metrics. So we can actually measure, okay, this is the amount of revenue coming in. This is our sales forecasting. This is the time it's been taking for us to hire. So we can link up the hiring and the HR, the revenue and the HR. It used to be linking up sales and marketing, right? But when you have an authoritative brand and you have great brand awareness, it's not really the marketing anymore. It's like, okay, you already have so many leads and so many things coming in. It's really syncing up the revenue to the HR and making sure that everything is dialed in correctly, because you can't close revenue and not provide a phenomenal service.
Oh, 100%.
Otherwise you get out of business.
100%. And a lot of people, when they're trying to build their brands and they're outsourcing too much, Anthony and I, we talk with different clients and people that we know, and they tell us that the biggest issue is finding good quality contractors or people to work with them. What's like a vetting process that you do to assess, hey, this is the right person within my culture or to join within the organization? Because that's an important thing to know.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a little bit different for a freelancer than it is for full-time. So we have, I believe it's a 4-stage hiring process now. So my operations manager has 2 masters in psychology. She's great with psychology. I'm great with psychology. And I'm very empathetic through my background of coaching and going through masterminds and going through my own spiritual journey through the depths of hell and back to where I am today. And we're really able to see through BS from a mile away. We ask certain culture questions. Like the first call is the right fit call, making sure that they're a culture fit. We don't talk about technological aspects. We're not making sure that they're the right fit from an experience standpoint. We're just making sure that it's a culture fit, because the fake it till you make it's out there, they're so worried about the technological questions. They're so worried about, well, what if you ask me this question? And they're not prepared for the culture questions. They're not prepared for the family questions, the moral questions, what they do in their free time, their hobbies, who's changed their life and why. And it really stirs them up and it gets them out of their shell. And sometimes, like, if it's a fake it till you make it, they don't know how to answer it. And we're like, okay, that was a BS answer. Like, they weren't prepared for this. Like, guarantee the next call is going to be even worse. So we have a series of different hiring stages that we go through. The next one is a technological one. The next one is it's a test. And then each one of our roles is different. So a front-end developer is going to have a different hiring experience than a UI UX designer versus a project manager versus an HR manager, because there's different tests and there's different protocols that we have through each of the stages. The first one is always the same. And then the last meeting with me, the CEO, is always the same. But like the test and the different things that we make them go through is a different experience, but it really allows us to check all the boxes. So if I'm sitting in my head and I'm like, okay, the risk analysis of hiring someone is 5 points or 5 data points. We know that we need to ask this question to cover that one. We need to we need to gamify it and do a little test with them while we're on the screen with them to see how they react to it. That's number 2. So we really try to mitigate all risk possible. And by the time they get to the end of the food chain, which is meeting with me, we've already done our checks and balances. And the last call is more of a very humble humility call, like get to know you. It's not this big bad CEO gets on the call. It's more of, a down to earth, like, are we the right fit to work with each other? This is our culture. This is me. This is our company. This is where we're going. And I just want to make sure that before we give you a job offer and we waste any more time, like, we're on the same page. So it's a full on experience that we go through. It's definitely a little bit longer than the typical agency or hiring process, but I would rather spend a little bit more time and capital upfront getting to know people and making sure that they're the right fit, versus I think on average you waste $3,000 to $6,000 per employee every time you have to fire a new hire. So at the end of the day, you don't want to keep, I'd much rather spend more time on the recruiting process and the interviewing process. And then on the flip side, you need to make sure that your onboarding and training process is dialed in. Otherwise, you're setting someone up for failure. So that's what the typical entrepreneur doesn't understand. They're like, oh, I just need a logo and a website and we're going to pop up this brand. And to get to the 8-9 figure level, it is layers upon layers upon layers. And it's a never ending grind to get your brand to where you want it to be. Even if you're making the money you want and you're profiting the money, when you're an entrepreneur and your vision is to change the world, there's always going to be work for you to enhance your brand and go deeper to provide more value.
100%. It's all about value. And I think that entrepreneurs getting into whatever business they're doing, they have to provide value and they have to be customer driven. And the issue, and I've had some people ask me these questions. So when you're starting out your business, usually the hardest part is just to get to the first million. When you started on your journey, what was the most hardest part within starting your whole entrepreneurship journey period for yourself?
Great question. I feel like I was born an entrepreneur. I was 4 or 5 years old talking about owning my own businesses, and my parents would laugh at me and be like, okay, this kid's probably weird. Like, he's like, what is he even talking about? But I feel like I have a unique gift and a unique ability for building and growing brands. And it kind of comes easy to me, not in the sense of it happens overnight, because it takes years upon years to get to where you're trying to go. So building brands hasn't been difficult for me. It's getting out of your own way that's been difficult for me. It's your mindset. It's who you view yourself as. It's the ego. It's the fear. It's the previous trauma from childhood. It really has nothing to do with business. It's like, at least for me, my experience is, I hit rock bottom right after high school, had a very successful business at a young age, hung out with the wrong people. Long story short, hit rock bottom. It was an illegal business at the time. Now it's not so much anymore. But ended up hitting rock bottom, had no money to my name, had to borrow money from my parents to even go to college and pay for my first, 6 months of rent. Started my first company later that year and became uber successful. But for the next 7 years, I wore it as a mask. Don't look over here at this loser, this, dropout, this, ex-drug dealer, blah, blah, blah. Don't look over here in the corner. Look at this young, attractive, successful, only dates models, makes good money. And I was spending almost everything I was making for the first 2 years. Let's just say 21, 22 years old, making $250,000 to $500,000 at 21, that's life changing, right? You're the guy. But when you're spending $250,000 to live your lifestyle, what do you really have to show for it? So I had to go through that journey. And I think by the age of 27 or 28, I started realizing spirituality and self-help books and, the Tony Robbins of the world and masterminds and coachings. And I invested a lot of money in different coachings and experiences. I would leave for 2 weeks and go through, an intense coaching course and reading hundreds of books. And what I realized is the hardest thing is we are the hardest thing. It's not the business. It's not the business plan. It's not getting customers. It's not growing your brand. It's you. It's you waking up every morning, looking in the mirror, and you deciding what you're going to tell yourself for the day. Like up until February of this year, all honesty, a lot of people are like, wow, you've been crushing it for a decade. Like you've been growing every year. Up until February, I believed in myself, but not fully. I looked in the mirror this February and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like I'm crushing my goals and everything was going great. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, why do I feel numb inside? I'm like, I just sold a house. My companies are doing better than they've ever done. Like I have phenomenal relationship. Everything in my life is going amazing, but why am I not feeling anything? And I had a talk with myself and I journaled and I meditated, and it came down to disappointment in myself for feeling like I'm leaving so much more on the table, not from a greed standpoint or from I need to accumulate more because that's not who I am. But I looked in the mirror and I said, dude, we're capable of so much more. Why are we selling ourselves short? You wanted to do YouTube for years. You wanted to push Instagram even harder. You wanted to get into the equity space. You wanted to do all these things. Why are you making all these excuses of people judging you, or what if this happens or what if that happens? Because I'm not fearful of failure. I'm fearful of success. I'm fearful of more attention. I'm fearful of more money coming in. I'm fearful of more investments happening, because once you keep leveling up to a level you've never been before, it's almost like you're looking down at the ground and it's like you're on stilts. You're like, oh shit, what if I fall? What if I keep going higher? And it's a video game and you have to keep leveling up every single time. So I had a talk with myself in February and I'm like, fuck it. What do we have to lose? We've lost everything. And I say we as I'm talking to myself like I'm crazy, but I was like, I've lost everything multiple times. And when my back is against the wall, I've made it all back within a year, within 2 years. And what's the worst that happens? We fail, go bankrupt. Am I still alive? So in February, I went all in. I started pushing YouTube content that's going really, really well. Started pushing more Instagram content, started 2 new companies. One of the new companies, has $2 billion in the pipeline for processing. We're raising another $1.5 billion with our private equity company, and Aventive's growing leaps and bounds. So I started to believe in myself more back in February, grinded harder, worked harder, got more focused, but believed in myself more. And it's insane how the world says, oh, you're ready for more? Here's more. But when you're looking in the mirror and you're like, well, what if my business fails? Or what if this happens? Or what if that happens? The world's like, okay, hell no. We're not sending you more customers. You don't even know if you can handle 1 more customer and you kind of want 5. So I think that to circle back around, we are our own worst nightmare. We whatever you think of or talk about really comes true. You manifest it. So if you're fearful and talking about failure every single day, or relationships like, oh, I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. Guess what's going to happen?
That's right.
You're going to be alone the rest of your life. If you're a fear of failure, you're going to fail the rest of your life because you are literally telling the world what you want to happen. So to answer I know I did a roundabout. I'm a storyteller.
I love it.
That was deep, man. No, continue.
Yeah. So it's the biggest thing is you. And the biggest thing that's changed my life are books. I just did a video on the top 10 books that changed my life. And I've been a multimillionaire before. I've been dirt poor and I've gotten back to the multimillionaire status. And I'll tell you one thing, that until you go all in on yourself and you know yourself away from that title, away from your bank account, away from whatever status you have, you'd be happier being broke. So before I went down my spiritual journey, I was happier being broke than I was being a millionaire because I didn't know who I was. I was lost in the sauce. I was so worried about what other people thought of me and worried about myself and worried about people finding out about my past. Now I'm an open book. I have no skeletons in my closet. Everyone knows my story. I told my full story on podcast, one of the popular podcasts, and there was like 20 million downloads in the first month. I got thousands of DMs from people. And I'm like, oh shit, I guess everyone knows my story now. So when you can call yourself out and be as humble as you can and kill the ego, not kill the ego, but understand the ego inside of you and know yourself to a 1-to-1 ratio and fall in love with the humble, amazing human being you are, away from the CEO title, away from Instagram followers, away from the designer clothes you're wearing, and you just love you for you with no external anything attached. That's when life changes. That's when you can have all the toys in the world. Like, I could lose all my cars and houses and everything tomorrow, and I'd still be happy because I love me and I know what I'm worth. I know that when my back is against the wall, I'll figure it out. So I don't think that business is hard for people. I think that we grew up in a society where therapy was picked on and made fun of. And a lot of us have trauma from childhood and divorced families and abuse and all these different things that are now finally starting to come to light. And what happens is people don't get their mind right before they get their business right. They're living for their business, but their mind and their family and their personal life is chaos. And what they're doing is they're now going in a rat race trying to solve their business when they haven't even solved the voice inside their head. And really the problem is the voice inside their head. It's not their business.
The fact that we brought this up, man, I think it's absolutely powerful because you see this happen so often. And it's one of those things where immediately people step into the mindset component of anything. It's already like they consider the fluff, right? And in reality, it's the most important thing because I think, like you said, your business is only hard because we make it harder than what it is because we're so caught up in our own head because we haven't solved these other issues that we're dealing with internally that's holding us back from doing more in all aspects of our lives. And, the fact that you've dove into this self-growth and awareness and spiritual journey allowed you to realize these things already having success, which is, something that a lot of people you hear when we've interviewed other individuals have told us similar things that, a similar, story where, hey, you realize that even being broke, I'm still as happy as I can be because I found and tapped into who I really am and what really makes me the person I am. And when you hear something like that, it's moving because, as much as resources, money, it's important. We all want these things. It helps change families, things in the world, movements. But at the end of the day, if you're not happy with your internal self, like you said, you can have all the money, but you're never going to be happy.
Well, in our society, too, to piggyback off of Anthony, men don't really talk about these things. No. Mental health is not something that men really speak about. We're always talking about money. We're talking about getting the nice car, the nice girls, or all these different things. But when it comes to fixing yourself, it's like a taboo within our culture, especially for men. We just don't talk about it. We just keep it buried in. So I'm glad you shine the spotlight on that.
Yeah, and it's funny, and it hit me yesterday, and usually I'm very dialed in with my health. I'm very dialed in with everything. But like I said, February, things in my life exploded for the most amazing type of way. And I didn't want to slow it down by any means. So I just kept riding it, which is why I'm hitting a little bit of burnout. But it's funny because people chase the cars and the clout and the money and fame. And I'm driving my McLaren to a coffee shop yesterday, the car that everyone, like, people dream of or whatever. And it was 2 days ago. And I'm just like, I have no energy. Why did I allow myself to hit burnout? Why am I doing this again? The car doesn't change shit. So it's like, if you're not energetic, if you're not, today I'm back to normal. Thank God. It was like a week, of energy up and down, but don't chase the cars. Like, I was driving 2 days ago and I'm like, I would much rather have my health in this piece of shit car right now. And so many people chase the cloud and chase those things. And at the end of the day, once you get them, they're cool and your friends get to experience them. Your family gets to experience them. But I'm telling you right now, the cool thing is impact. The cool thing is when your employee hits a goal. The cool thing is when your client hits a goal. The cool thing is when you can gift something for your family or a loved one or provide an experience for someone. And really, like, one of the things I've done with my credit card processing company and my private equity company is Avintiv kind of grows itself, right? It's not, we don't do much marketing. Like, there's press and there's things that we've done for brand awareness, but our company kind of grows itself. Our clients, like, we have partnerships with the different venture capitalist firm and different private equity groups, and they love the work that we do. And they say, okay, if we're going to invest $20-30 million in this company, you have to use Avintiv for your website because we know their conversion rates are higher, or we know that they're going to dial their brand in. So we have all these affiliate partnerships that they just bring us business. Amazing. Month over month, year over year. So I said, okay, my friends in the private equity and credit cards processing space, they're crushing it. They're making M's a month, like profit, just bankrolling. I'm like, okay, like, I'm about to be there soon too with these companies. but how can I bring all my family and friends with me? And some of my boys are like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, well, if I have these two unique opportunities, but I don't have time to run the companies, I don't have time to, look for different business or whatever. What if I brought you guys on and I'll just split my profit with you guys? You'll be an agent of the company. You bring in different businesses and we'll break it down in the center. So like the average credit card processing commission is 5, maybe 7% net on a deal that you close. We're paying out 25 to 35% on some of these deals because they're all close friends of mine. And these guys, their lives are changed now. They close we have a client an agent just closed a $500 million cannabis client for credit card processing. His entire life just changed. We're 90 days out from onboarding everything and having like everything dialed in. And I told him the figure he's going to be making monthly. And he literally was speechless. He said, you literally changed my fucking life. He's like, this is real. There's no going back. I'm like, this is real.
That is crazy.
This is real. One of my best friend's moms came up to me at an event the other day and she's like, you're crushing it right now. Like what you're doing for like my son and all your friends and all your group. Like I'm trying to create wealth for my friends' families, not just them, not just me. So like these other companies, it's more of a give back. It's how I'm giving back to my community, my family, my friends, hooking people up. Because Avintiv, not everyone needs a $50,000 website. Not everyone, wants SEO. Like it's a very niche type of offering. So I don't like if you follow me on Instagram, I'm not talking about websites and branding all day long, just because I'm not trying to sell to the average person. But these two companies, I'm like, how can I turn every one of my friends into millionaires before the end of the year and travel together, go on vacations together? Because if you don't bring them with you, there will be a financial gap in between your friendships. If you're going to certain hotels or certain trips or certain planes or certain this, and your friends can't go with you or your family can't go with you. So a light bulb went off and it's like, damn, if I create these companies and I share it with all my friends equally, it's almost like we're in this together and we're breaking bread together. We're making money together and there's more than enough to go around. So that's really my mindset with everything I do is there's enough food for everybody to eat at the table.
Yeah.
I'm the one that eats
awesome.
last.
That is awesome. That mentality of why celebrate alone when I can celebrate with my loved ones? That's the beauty.
Not fun.
It's not fun.
And it hit me because one of my business partners in the credit card processing space, like they take PJs everywhere. They're staying at five-star resorts, villas that, I would never want to afford. And he's like, well, they were like, sometimes we don't invite you on the trips because we know you don't want to drop 30, 40 grand on a vacation. So they extended the olive branch tree to me to help me get to the next level. And I'm doing the same thing for them along with our families and everyone eating together, because this whole journey is about who you experience it with. It's not the end point. It's not what you go through every day. Yes, it's enjoying the journey, but it's really about the experience with the people that are in your life every single day. And although like I have a big network or social following, my circle is really small. Like the people that I break bread with, the people that know me 100%, that know my family, what's going on, et cetera. Like it's very, very small. And I want to make sure that those people are winning just as much as me. That's the difference between me and the typical person. The typical person is me. How can I get ahead? How can I do this? And I'm looking at it from, damn, how can I take care of all my homies and their families for the rest of their lives?
That's amazing.
Because I'm mentally set. To me, I'm already financially free, like taken care of for the rest of my life. And when you have that mentality, you want to give, and the world keeps giving back because you're giving so much. And that's kind of my mentality.
That's amazing, bro. And I want to ask you this. It's a random question. So credit card processing, you're talking about like a cannabis business or something like that. They accept payment? They accept credit card payment?
Yeah. So without going too much.
And how I know about this is Google, obviously, right?
Yeah. So I have an ISO credit card processing company. So essentially we have direct access to about 6 or 7 banks. We get insane pricing that not many other companies can touch. And the reason why other companies can't touch it is, my business partner and myself, we have under 10 employees. The typical ISO has 100 to 1,000 employees, multi-million-dollar office space, global offices. So when you're going and getting pricing, the reason why Square charges you 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction is because their business is ginormous and they need to pay all the costs and all the expenses. But when you're going to someone that has the same exact access with 5 to 10 employees, we can go as low. It's like the limbo or whatever the game is. Like we can go as low to the floor as possible. And yes, with that said, we do have access to certain banks that have approved credit card processing and PIN debit for dispensaries, cannabis brands. It's fully legalized. We do a lot of processing for weed delivery companies right now. I think upwards of like 35 to 45 million a month right now. We're onboarding 150 dispensaries. We have another lead that's in for 2,300 dispensaries. And then our company makes points on every single dollar that passes through. So we're one of the only offerings within the cannabis space. We are very selective with who we bring on. It's not like a one mom and pop shop, or it's open to the masses, because obviously, the regulations from a federal and everything standpoint, but we do legally have banks that back it right now. It's kind of just, you have to know somebody who knows somebody to get to someone like me or my partner that, and you have to have a big enough operation to have it make sense for us to carry the liability.
And you're doing this only here in the States or internationally as well?
So we're doing it in the States. We do have international within Europe. We have a bank in Malta and a couple other, European areas, but predominantly we're focused on the United States. Because once you pass over to Europe, you have to bring Europe bank partners on, Europe processing partners on, then like the profit gets a lot lower. So really what we focus on here is we do low risk and high risk businesses. So we're big in the coaching space and the mentorship and mastermind, group, that those are all high risk as well, kind of like cannabis. We have a lot of keto and supplement brands. We do all of Buco de Beppo, Hard Rock Cafe, Set Jet. That's more on my business partners end of things. But yeah, it's insane pricing compared to what the other competitors do. And the customer service is really what seals the deal. Like, we don't ever have to sell our services. We're not selling credit card processing. Like it sells itself. So if you've dealt with Stripe or Square or other companies, a lot of the time you don't even get a person, you get a bot, and it goes from bot to bot to bot. And then your money's tied up for 6 months. When you work with Credi, you're getting the owner on the phone same day. If I can't figure it out, I go to my partner. If he can't figure it out, we go to our customer service bank partners, and that's the top of the food chain. So there's not a support ticket. You're not waiting months for your money. Like, we're getting you an answer within 24 to 48 hours. And that's really the biggest selling factor.
You guys are providing service at its highest premium level, which is, why you have these amazing clients working for you, which is beautiful. You don't see that barely anymore. Everything is, like you said, straight to a robot. The robot solves it. And at the end of the day, these robots, they don't do that great of a job. They're not at that level where they do that great of it. They can solve certain minor basic problems, but not deeper level issues. And it goes to my next question, because I was going to ask you something you mentioned. You said you work with coaching individuals, masterminds. How does that play? How do you see that playing out, especially now in the future, in the coaching business, as it's grown drastically, events? How does that work out for you guys?
Yeah. So we do processing for those individuals. I was in the coaching realm, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago. I got out just because a lot of my clients that were getting certain business coaching from me, they started crushing it so much. We leveled up their business. They wanted to become business coaching coaches. Or business consulting coaches. So it just rubbed me the wrong way to the point where I got out of the industry. But where I see the industry going, I think it's going to keep growing, because people need more mental health. They need more awareness. They need more masterminds and more things. But I don't think it's going to be very much high ticket. I think it's going to be a lot more groups of people with, 10,000 people in a program that's, $15 a month, $20 a month. It's going to be the lower ticket volumes that are crushing the game. Like, look at Tony Robbins. $500 to $5,000 to go to his event. He switched it to virtual. I think you can get a ticket for $149 or something like that. And he's selling it to millions of people. That's really where the coaching aspect and the masterminds and all that are going to go. I'm not the biggest mastermind guy anymore. I invested $250,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching masterminds, things like that. The only reason I would ever do masterminds is for a network. And I don't really need to grow my network that much more until I get to the next level. And then once I'm at that next level, I will need to break into the billionaire network and things like that. But I hate to say it, billionaires are not in masterminds. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to take a whole different approach to be with the movers and shakers of things like that. But I really see the coaching world going more towards a low ticket, going mainstream, because COVID woke everybody up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought this up, because what I have noticed is, you see a lot of the low ticket offering really upfront. And then what they do is on the back end is where you hit with more of the high ticket offerings, more niche, small one-on-one attention, semi-group style. And that's where you see a lot of those high ticket stuff. Now, when it comes to, the low ticket offering, since you work a lot in the branding space, what would you say is the biggest benefit for somebody? Example, you got a Tony Robbins who can literally close out a whole bunch of small low ticket offerings. It's going to end up being millions for him, because he has such a powerful name and brand. But versus somebody who's not that well known, maybe starting their brand or trying to get their name out there, what is your biggest suggestion when it comes to, the way they're using their low ticket, but they really need to be able to produce more to be able to build their business up when it comes to maybe branding themselves, building themselves up?
What I think what predominantly what I've been seeing happen, and it's a little disappointing, is because I can already tell who the coaches are that are coaching these people because I know them pretty well. People need to stop going to these coaches that are a couple levels higher than them and using the same cookie cutter platform that they use for everybody. Like when you read these bios, I don't even want to say it because I know I'm going to offend a couple people, but when you can read a couple different girls' bios and they're basically saying the same thing in their bio, who coached them. Like, this is how your bio needs, like they're all talking the same on Instagram and social media. When someone's starting out, you need to find out what lights you up inside. If you're going to be a coach, what success have you had? Everyone's waking up nowadays, and that's why I got out of the industry. Everyone's waking up calling themselves a coach. They have no success. They have no notoriety. They have no resume. They have nothing that they've presented to the world that they should label themselves as a coach. And I don't take offense to it. I just get frustrated because the average person that really needs a coach, that really needs the help, they're going to someone that's really never worked with anyone before. So I think that a lot of these coaches, when they get into the coaching realm, I think that they need to be a little bit more humble when they're going out of the gate and letting people know, like, hey, I'm starting out, or hey, this is like my mission, this is my passion, and bring people along the journey of your coaching business with you. Don't act like you're at the top of the food chain. Like, I help 7-figure earners do this, and that. I'm like, you've never made 7 figures in your life. Like, how are you helping 7-figure? Like, that's just a little pet peeve that I see all the time. But it's like being more authentic with who you are and where you're going, and just go all in on in coaching. I would totally niche down, like not in the agency world, but if you're going to help fitness pros or people lose weight or financial freedom or whatever it is, you need to find your tribe, go all in on them. Stop acting like you're so much higher than everybody else, because no one wants to work with someone that's at the top of the mountain. Like, you hire a coach because they're one step foot in front of you and they're reaching down to pull you up to their level. So what a lot of these coaches do is they get insecure that they don't have the resume and all this accolades and credibility. So they position themselves way too high, and then no one wants to work with them because they can't relate to them. So you're just a couple steps in front of the coachee. That's how you need to position yourself, and you need to go all in on that tribe. Don't focus on Bill or Tim. Focus on the Jameses of the world. Go all in on James. Provide as much value as you can for as little as you can charge right out of the gate, but have a deal with them that they'll do a video testimonial. They'll do a case study. They'll do a 5-star review. You can do as many questions and answers with them as possible. Shit, do the first 10 for free just to get that data. Then you go and build your landing pages or funnels or website or marketing collateral. And then you throw all your case studies and 5-star reviews and the experience that you've given into that. You'll close even more deals, and then hire a consultant that can teach you how to build the actual operations of a business out, versus hiring a coach below you. You've never trained someone. You don't know hiring. You don't know operations. Now you're this coach running this business and you have no idea what you're doing. You need to keep reinvesting back into your business to hire an operations expert, someone that can help you with an org chart, someone that can help you with SOPs and systems and processes. That's what I would do if I was starting out within the coaching realm. It's just so many people go to these coaches, they spend 10 grand, and then they have the same bio, the same type of posts, the same everything. And I'm like, how are you helping business coach 7-figure business owners and you've never hit $1 million in your life? Like, or how are you helping people lose 100 pounds or whatever, and you're overweight yourself? So it's like, I think people need a humble slice of pie to really understand where they're really at in life and stop fronting and faking, and just provide as much value as you can by authentically being where you're at. And the world will help you get to where you're trying to go. But when you fake it and you have low vibrational negative energy blocking you from where you really want to be because you're already acting like you're really wanting to be there, you're not going to get there. Or if you do, you're going to go down even further. You're going to have an aha moment. You're going to have a realization. The world's going to slap you in the face, and then you'll get to the promised land, but it's going to be 10 years down the road. And I say that because it happened to me.
Powerful,
man. And
powerful.
It's true now, especially with authenticity. People want that more now than ever. With being, like you said earlier, people are getting confused with the media. They don't know what to believe. There's doubts amongst everybody. So the more authentic you are, the more value you provide, those are the ones that are really going to change and create the impact for people. And I think society's catching on to that very quick. Like the fake Lambos, the rentals, all that, it's starting to get outdated. And now there's a trend of people just driving Toyota Corollas. Hey, but he's a millionaire.
Yeah, and nowadays, like, people are faking Instagram verifications and press and all these things, and everyone's like, "Oh, did you do this?" I'm like, "No, I actually got verified by Instagram. Like, I didn't fake the system or do all this backdoor stuff." And it's I don't want to say it's sad, because I used to be one of those people that chased the clout in my adolescence at 21, 22 years old. So I have empathy for them. But man, people just need to wake up and just be happy with where they're currently at. It's not a rat race. We're not in competition with each other. If everyone viewed everyone as the same human race, not skin color, not financial status, not weight, we're all brothers and sisters and in arms with each other, everything would be going a lot more smoothly for the entire freaking world. But everyone's at war with each other.
That's right. Facts. That is facts. 100% facts. So for you, what would you say is something that an individual right struggling with this right now can start doing right now, right away, a tool that you can leave them off with that would just open the door to really expanding their mind and really figuring out who they really are, so they can go out there and live their journey and create the success in their business or whatever it is that they're doing in their life?
Easy. So I actually created this during COVID, and I say saved because it actually saved, I don't even know how many people's lives. I actually had people DMing me in tears saying they were a week away from committing suicide. They already had it planned out. They already had it picked out, and like they were going to go through it. And I created a morning routine. And during COVID, I did free coaching calls with people, free Zoom calls, free books I was reading. Like, I was just trying to provide as much value during COVID as possible. And it was a lockdown. But I would recommend creating a morning ritual. The reason I say morning ritual, how you start your day and how you end your day is what success you hit for the day or what failure you hit for the day. So I would wake up every single morning, and you'll change your morning routine. Like, my morning routine is a little bit different than what I'm recommending right now, but I would wake up. I would have a warm glass of water with salt and lemon and chug that right when you wake up. So it refreshes you and regenerates you, because you just went 8 hours of no liquid hydration or anything like that. I would go and meditate for 15 minutes sitting on a pretzel in the living room or whatever. YouTube has a bunch of great free meditation. Like, you can put positive meditation, different types of positive affirmations. I would use AirPods or whatever your headphones are, sit in a pretzel on the floor for 15 minutes. Try to do 15 minutes or work, 5, then 6, then 7, then 10, then 15. And then afterwards I would journal for 5 to 15 minutes. And I would say, this is my experience of the past 24 hours. This is what happened. This is what I'm excited for. These are my intentions for the day. And then you list out 5 things that you're grateful for. And I do it every single day. So what my morning routine is now, instead of going straight to reading and meditation, I do the water with the lemon. I go straight to the gym where my buddy owns a gym down the road. It's very motivating. The scenery is amazing. The music is going. It gets me pumped up. I come back and shower. I then do my meditation for 15 minutes. I then journal for 15 minutes, and then I start my day. So my entire morning is controlled 100% by me. My phone is on do not disturb. I don't care if it's $1 billion client. You can't get a hold of me before 9 a.m. I won't take a call. I won't respond. If you're a family or a friend, like, I'll respond. But that's my me time. And before I go to bed, I try not to watch TV or anything that's blue light. I'll put on some meditation music. I'll read for 2 hours before bed. I'll journal sometimes or meditate, and then I'll go to bed. And when I do that consecutively for a couple of days or a week, and then maybe movies on the weekend or hang out with friends, whatever, your mind just gets so dialed in for when you wake up the next morning, you're restored. You weren't watching, people killing each other on a movie before. You weren't watching, chaos on the news or all these different things, and your eyes are prepared. You're well rested. So morning rituals, outside of that, reading is huge, meditating is huge, and journaling is huge. Those 3 things are very low cost, and they will change your life. I just did a Instagram and YouTube video on the top 10 books that changed my life. And I told people, I've been broke, I've been multimillionaire, and I've lost it 3 times over. How did I get back to where I was? It was through books. It was through meditating. It was through journaling. It was through having a relationship with myself. And even lately, like, I've been very public facing and traveling and so much going on with work and deals, and life's been amazing. But hitting burnout, I'm like, damn, I need to take a step back. I need to meditate more. I need more alone time. I need to read more. I'm too many people are reaching out to me in DMs or comments or like I'm giving too much away of myself, where I need to retract a little bit. And that's okay too. And that's what a lot of people have trouble saying no. So I know I'm going on a tangent right now, but you also need to learn to say no to when your friend asks you to go to a party, or no to a date, or no to something that doesn't go hand in hand with who you want to be at the moment. The world keeps saying yes to all these things they know they shouldn't be doing: drinking, smoking, drugs, the wrong relationship, versus saying no, retracting, and doing doing the loner stuff. Like I'm, on a Thursday night, I'm sitting on my couch reading a book, listening to meditating music. If you looked at Instagram, you would not picture that about me, but that's what I do. Like, that's how I'm able to operate at the high frequency and high energy that I do. But the rest of the world doesn't want to say no to their friends. They want to be the life of the party. They can't sit still with themselves because they still have trauma and shit from God knows however long ago that they haven't worked through yet. And it goes right back to the original conversation we had about what people could do differently in business. And I said it's themselves. It's the same thing with this. Mindset and getting your personal self to where you're trying to go will set everything else up for success.
I appreciate you sharing that, Jon. I really, really do. And this goes to me to ask you, are you still doing those Zooms for the people? Are you still offering those just in case anybody wants to tune in?
Yeah, I did. Man, with how much, like if I showed you my calendar right now, people laugh because it's like color coded. It's 14 hours long. Like there's just so much going on. I did YouTube instead. So like I launched my YouTube channel. We're doing value videos, lifestyle videos, showing behind the scenes of closing deals, hanging out with friends. So that's more of, I don't even want to say full-time. That's like a part-time thing. So to think of even like adding another piece of value in there, I think I'm just spread way too thin with my companies right now. I think in the next year to 2 years, when I actually hire a CEO to take over my role within my organizations, I can then be the visionary again, work on my businesses and get back into coaching or consulting or doing things that I want to do. I just know my threshold and it's hitting pretty close to not being able to take anything else on.
Totally. So where can people access your YouTube, your personal information? That's the way if they want to connect with you. Again,
yes.
Guys, get ready. Yeah. He's not going to might tell you no, not just kidding.
Yeah, best way to contact is Instagram. It's JonBoles. Just type that in. You'll see a little check mark. It's pretty easy to find. All my other social media channels, people actually blackmailed me and took my handle. So they're like, Jon Boles 1, Jon Boles official.
Geez.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. It's Jon Boles. There are a couple fake accounts. So like I said, make sure it's got the blue check mark next to it. That's me. YouTube is Jon Boles 1. You can type Jon Boles into YouTube. I just got back into that. I want to say back in like March. So we drop a video every Tuesday at 5 p.m. The feedback I've gotten is amazing. It looks like cinematography, like a Netflix series, like our team crushes it. There's a lot of value adds in there. But predominantly those are really the two social platforms that I'm on. I post on obviously the other platforms, but I'm not active on there.
Gotcha. And I appreciate you sharing that. So guys, if you want to connect with Jon, you have the information. If you want to get value and also as well, just grow your mind, get in a better place, you know exactly where to do so. Jon, before we wrap things up, I want to say personally, thank you. This has been amazing. It's so much value, so much bringing awareness to the audience today about, where things headed to, how to build their own teams, how to build themselves as a person, how to really find true happiness. And I think that's the ultimate key here at the end of the day.
I appreciate you guys having me. Hopefully your listeners got some value today.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, for sure.
100%. And the way we like to end it here is we like to do a rapid fire burner round questions. You up for it?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Question number 1. What was the craziest and wildest experience you've ever had in your career?
Whew. Craziest and wildest experience. Okay. I had an e-commerce company. I sold it in 2018. It was 5. So in like 2013, I started. It was an activewear brand in the fitness industry. I got out of nightlife and hospitality. I own nightclubs and restaurants. I got out of that industry, got into fitness industry and invested all my money. I bought a condo. So I obviously put a bunch of money down with that, and put the rest of my money in my company. 2 days before we launch, I get a cease and desist letter through Twitter from another company that just closed like a $2 million round of funding. Back then was a big deal. He was like, hey, your logo's infringing on ours. I'm like, oh shit. So I hopped on a call with him and was able to broker a deal like, hey dude, I'm just going to be transparent with you. I've never heard of your brand before. I don't necessarily think our logo's infringing on it, but you've been in this space a lot longer than I have. I have respect for that. I've looked at your brand. You've done a phenomenal job. I'm going to take ego out of this. Would you be okay if I change the logo immediately, but could you please just let us sell the clothing we have? Like, I put all my capital into this. We have, thousands of pieces. I think it'll be sold within 60 days. Is it, are you okay with something like that? And he's like, really? And I was like super humble about it. I was like, hey, I get it. I'm going to side with you. You're right. I'll sign whatever paperwork. He's like, totally, easily. Like, yeah. He's like, thanks for being so easy about this. Funny story is 2 years later, someone copied our logo, Modus Apparel, like to the frickin' T. And this guy was being a little, you know what? I'm like, okay, I'm not about to drop 10 G's on a cease and desist letter. So I hit my buddy up at this other company. I'm like, can you believe the audacity of this guy trying to steal our logo? I can't believe he's trying to infringe on your logo. Like, who would do that? He spent like 10 or 15 grand taking this guy out because he wasn't a nice guy. So like I pinned them against each other. And then a year later or 6 months later, we got a cease and desist letter. It was like, I think it was like a $2 million lawsuit from North Face.
Oh, wow.
Shit. Which is a $4 billion publicly traded company. And I'm like, oh shit. So we actually had to change our logo. I worked with their legal team and they saw that the CEO was hopping on the call. I think they thought our company was a lot bigger than it was, even though it was doing very well. And they're like, wait, the CEO's hopping on the call? Because obviously they're working with publicly traded companies. And I was like, hey, sir, I'm so sorry, yada, yada, yada. What can we do to mitigate this? Like, we'll play ball. Like, I don't want to, cause any frustration, this or that. Their lawyer told my lawyer, he's like, your client just saved my client $500,000 of what our legal budget was just to get this thing going. He's like, just put your guy's name underneath the logo, Modus Apparel, and screw the whole cease and desist letter. Just put the name underneath the logo. You can keep it. Your client was so humble and so amazing to work with. Our client saved money and the CEO already signed off on it. So like that was like the craziest year experience I've had from the legal standpoint.
Oh man, I definitely.
That is wild.
I have my own story with those, but it came out the same ending, same way, and I was very humble about it myself.
Yes, 100%.
And then the last question. So, what is the single best piece of advice that you leave off to our audience?
Single best piece of, I just got asked this on a podcast a week ago, but I want to switch it up. My biggest piece of advice for the society that we live in today is stop looking at what everybody else is doing. Stop looking on Instagram. Don't look at my page and see what I'm doing, what I have, followers. Don't do any of that. Go there for the value, go there for the content, consume the value aspects of it, but don't compare yourself to others because it's just an endless battle and you're never going to think you're good enough. You're always going to wonder why you don't have this or how you can get to the next level. You need to look in the mirror and wonder when you're going to start being the best you. Amen. So that hit me when I was at a coaching event. And I got on the stage in front of 150 people. And I think I had like 30 or 40,000 followers at the time, not verified. And he's like, and Chris in front of like a very intimate setting. And I'm like shaking as I'm up here, like, oh shit. It was like a 2-week coaching course. And he's like, what's your biggest insecurity? And I said that I'm never going to be a Lewis House, that I'm never going to be a New York, best-selling author, that I'm never going to be a this or that. And he says, John, do you know who I am? And I said, you're Chris. He's like, do you know what my last name is? I said, no. He's like, I'm Chris Lee. I'm Lewis House's business coach. Who do you think helped him build a school of greatness? Guess who reached out on Instagram an hour after that? And then Chris said that he had a 2-hour conversation with Lewis on the phone about me saying like, how we're the same person, yada, yada, yada. He says, John, when are you going to stop trying to be Lewis House? And when are you going to fucking be Jon Boles? And I was like, oh, it was just that little phrase. When are you going to stop being X and start being Jon Boles? As soon as that happened, press started coming in, verification, followers, business, everything changed for my life as soon as I stopped looking at what everybody else was doing and trying to be everybody else. And I just became me. And I fell in love with me. So that's really the biggest thing that's stopping a lot of people from getting to where they're trying to go is they're not in touch with who they are and themselves. They're so focused on these other people.
I love that, man. That was a great response. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Very, very powerful. And for anybody listening out there, remember, got to be you. Stop trying to be other people. Stop trying to emulate other people. Look at people as an influence and let it influence you and motivate you, but don't try to be them because you are not them and you can be your own great version. And that's the most important thing here. If you got value out of this podcast, the most important thing you need to do right now is grab at least one single thing, apply it today, not tomorrow, not the next day, but today, the moment you get off, start making those changes, put that into your life, and you're going to see a massive effect on the other side. Guys, if you also got value of this, like, subscribe, comment, share, leave a rating, drop a review, because the more love you show us, the more love we can show back. Till next time on the Sweat It Out Podcast.